Hello and welcome.
Hey, Karen, I'm going to put Nellie Beth back in the waiting room.
Hi there.
Hi. Oops.
Let's see. Are you removing Nellie Beth from this session?
Well, do you want me to take her off this session? I think she signed in a long time ago, like 2 hours ago.
I see.
I think she just clicked on the, now she's off, so maybe. Okay.
Hello, Gina and Tina and Brian.
Cheers. Hey there. My camera's not showing up. So let's figure this out. There it is. Okay, there we go.
Great. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I have to say, Gina and Tina and Brian, since you all are here, I don't know if you're just planning to kind of listen in. This is actually just an interactive session, questions and answers with the managers like you. So if you have a moment or you can hear me, you can tune in and we could have a little chat about what's coming up. But otherwise, I'll present and kind of share with you what Lynn and I have planned for the coming 3 months with Eurest and Compass Associates. So if you've heard that, I'll go ahead and repeat it as I hit record. How about that? Right? Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our kickoff session for phase 2 of our Blue Canoe pilot with Compass Eurest Associates. I'm Karen Taylor of the Color Vowel Chart and CEO of Blue Canoe. And this is Lynn Swanda here in the room with me, who's our success coach for the associates who will be working on their spoken English and their pronunciation over the next 3 months. This is a group of high achieving associates who participated in phase 1 of this pilot that occurred from September through December of 2021. And we found enough sort of compelling engagement to decide with Daisy and Garwin and others at Compass and Eurest that we would continue with a second phase. And what we're finding is a lot of this is, there's some learning curve for all of us, realizing that there are a couple of some technical constraints that have made this a little bit challenging sometimes in terms of being able to check in with associates and know when and where they get to practice Blue Canoe. If you've just joined the room, we welcome you to tune in. I've thought of this as an interactive session, so you're welcome to turn on and ask questions. But again, I'm just sort of reviewing what we'll be doing in January, February, and March of this year through about April 10th. So this is a phase 2 of this initiative to help your associates who are non-native English speakers improve their spoken English and their confidence about speaking up and asking questions or clarifying something in the workspace on a daily basis. Okay. What will be different about this time around? If you were watching the pilot this past phase, in phase 1, you may have seen some things where your associates were attending a weekly meeting with Lynn, who's our success coach. And those sessions are really important. Those are live sessions where they go and practice English with Lynn, and she helps them notice new features of English that have not been noticeable to them before. And so those are basically instructional sessions and sessions to help keep associates focused on the strategies that we're teaching them, all pertaining to how to sound clearer and more confident in English. And if that still sounds, a little bit vague, I thought what we do this time around in this second phase is help everybody. And this is you, the manager, as well as the associate, start to take in and appreciate and remember these instances where English really plays a role. So the theme for the phase 2 is stories. And it's not just any story, we're not storytelling, but rather collecting and recalling and sharing instances when there was a communication that might have been about to go awry, maybe it was about to break apart, and then there's a fix, a clarification, and everything comes together. And so I wanted to give you a really concrete example of that, and it'll help, I hope, kind of light up what it is that we hope you'll just watch and listen for in this phase of the pilot, so that when you're on the floor or in a meeting with your associates and these kinds of moments arise, that you'll do your best to share them with us, and in a way that we can collect, because it's when it really meets the experience on the floor that we matter, that we want you to see, improved communication takes place in the daily moment. So along those lines, I thought I would share a clip of one of these kinds of stories, the kind of thing that surely you've experienced before. But these kinds of instances, they fade away really quickly. They're hard to hold on to. You'll remember that there was a funny misunderstanding, and then by the time you get home, you don't really remember it anymore, what the word was, or maybe the next day it fades away. So here's just a story told by a colleague of ours, of mine and Lynn's. She's a pretty good storyteller, so I thought I'd share it with you. And in it, she highlights, what was going on in her mind, what was happening in the other person's mind, and it's a gap between what he wants to be saying and what she's hearing. And it's that moment where she finally clues into what's really going on. And sometimes that clarification can be brought on by the speaker of English who's learning English still. And sometimes that clarification is brought about by the native speaker or the fluent speaker. So here's that story. And the idea of watching this story is to say, we can watch for these instances to see what Blue Canoe and all of the work that learners are doing, associates are doing, is actually manifesting there at work. If you start to see the evidence of this kind of improvement, that's exactly the kind of story we want to collect in the next 3 months, because it's not so easy. It's not written English. It's not saying, oh, their reports are easier to understand, or they're more grammatical, or they use better words. When it's in the written form, it's a little easier to pin down improvement. But the kind of improvement we're talking about is very fleeting and sometimes can seem ephemeral. And we certainly love it when people say, oh, it's just so much better. But when you ask, well, why, how, when, those instances are the ones we want to try to capture with your help. And it doesn't take a great deal of commitment or time or, any kind of heavy lifting, so much as an awareness of the kind of story that you hope to hold on to. So with no further ado, let me go ahead and just give you an example of an English understanding or misunderstanding story. And then I'll come back and we'll put a second focus on this next round of Blue Canoe at Compass Eurest. Okay, here we go. So this is our friend Liz, and she is a teacher of English, but this story I think you can relate to outside of any kind of teaching context, just in any setting. So here we go.
So I was having my first session with a new client, and I was trying to sort of test the upper limits of what he could understand and produce. And I asked him something, or I said something, and he said, 1 second, please. And I said, oh, okay. And I waited and expected him, of course, to get up or reach for something or, check his phone or something. But he just continued to look in the camera, and I continued to look in the camera, and I wasn't sure what to do. And then he said it again, 1 second, please. And then I realized that he wasn't saying 1 second, please, but rather once again, please. So I thought to myself, something interesting just happened there. But because we were in the middle of the session, I just made a mental note and went ahead. And then afterwards, I thought that was really strange, because those words, when you think about them, 1 second, please, and once again, please, 1 second, once again, they're really, like, even though they're very different words, when you link them together, as he had successfully done, to his credit, they're almost the same phonetically. And the only thing that really makes a difference, that I would have understood exactly what he meant, is if he had stressed that one syllable, where if he had said once again, please, once again, please. And even though that's sort of an odd way to ask for repetition, and I did help him with other ways to ask for repetition, I would have understood it if it had been stressed in that one place. But the way that he said it, I think probably there wasn't really any particular stress at all. And so I heard it as 1 second, please, because that made more sense in that scenario to me. So anyway, it just always surprises me that just that one little stress, that one little stress syllable that was not there, totally messed up our communication. And I, even as an experienced language teacher, completely misunderstood what he meant, even though he was making all the correct sounds.
All right.
So I was having my first session.
That's just repeating. So that was Liz sharing this moment of between, when the individual said, once again, please, and she paused for him, and he wasn't saying that. He was saying, once again, please. And so this business of using the hand, I don't know if you noticed, your associates may have mentioned it to her, maybe they were even doing it at work when speaking English. But what we're teaching with the color vowel approach through Blue Canoe is that it's not every single sound of English that requires clarity in order to be understood. It's a particular profile and a flow to English that we are teaching learners in this kind of thin slice, deep slice kind of way, where we don't teach all of English all the time, but rather we focus in on this particular skill that has a high payoff. And that's the stressed syllable in a word and the stressed syllable in a phrase. And by spending time on those, you get at the crux of how English is comprehensible. And this is particular to English. It's not the same for every language. So English works through stress. And when a speaker of English is using really effective stress, they're very comprehensible to other people. And you may have noticed yourself that you spend more time on these certain kinds of sounds. If you, next time you're trying to be extra clear for people, that's the strategy you're pulling on, whether you're aware of it or not. Okay. So the use of the hand is something that we teach. It's something we actually already do in spoken English. So this is just a formalized gesture for all of this movement we already do on the stressed syllables, whether we do it with our face or with our hands. If you're very talkative, we're leveraging that into this strategy that non-native English speakers benefit from, because it helps focus their voice on this special time that makes them very comprehensible. So that's something you can expect to see more of, is that learners will be using their hands or some kind of a gesture in some way to maximize how well they're understood. And so the thin slice is what we do in Blue Canoe, this use of the open hand and stress. And then Lynn, with her success coaching, and she's here in the room because she's about to meet with the associates during the second half of this hour. What she does in the room then is she's there to receive all of the questions that come about sort of, I'll call it the rest of English, right? By having this very focused approach, learners are able to notice more about English as it relates to their own needs. And so suddenly there's this very open dialogue and a lot of engagement that is so different from a lot of instruction where learners are told what they need to know. So rather, this is a needs-based kind of setting. And so the second part of what we'll be really focusing on that's a little bit more in depth than last pilot is we want the associates to be relating what they're doing to the actual language of the floor of their work on a daily basis. And so in this, we could also, use your help if you happen to notice moments where you wish this particular kind of moment was easier in terms of spoken English. Like you wish that associates knew how to give this certain kind of report or how to say something in a particular way that really helps the workplace be more efficient or more effective. So these are just ways that you can be aware that we're very interested in how this carries through into the workspace. The associates will be actually using Blue Canoe on their own, which is outside of work, of course, at home typically. It's about 15 to 20 to even 30 minutes a day. We certainly have some super users in this group who are super dedicated and they do put in the time. But the most important thing is about habit and consistency. So that 15 minutes a day when they complete the daily plan that they're provided in their phone, we track that and Lynn can see those data points and report back. She does a lot with success, what we call celebration boards, so that you can see, you know, who were the top 3 players or how much did the group play all together this week or this month. And so a lot of that goes on. As far as the tools of communication, I think that's something worth highlighting right now. Lynn, I'd like to invite you to just mention how you use WhatsApp with the associates. And then I can talk for just a minute about what we might do for any managers that are interested. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so I'll be using WhatsApp to communicate with them. The email last time worked for a few of them, but for the majority of them, it was not the best tool. So we're switching over to WhatsApp. So please encourage those of your associates who are continuing with this program to join that WhatsApp link, and we'll be posting that shortly. So on Sunday, usually I send them just a reminder that on Tuesday, we're going to have our Zoom session. And then again, on Tuesday, I will send the link for the Zoom. So they have it every week. You all are welcome to join as well as the Zoom session. If you just want to listen in and see what we do. I also I have a way to check on their Blue Canoe usage every week. And so I usually do that on Sunday or Monday if I can, and post the top users or how many points they've earned collectively together. So different things like that. And then it's also a place that I can encourage, and sometimes they'll post a screenshot of, oh, look what I did, look at my score here, or gosh, I'm really having trouble here. So it's just a way to give each other a boost and encouragement and suggestions on getting through some of those language points. So we use it in a lot of different ways. And I always ask for any questions on there too, that I can then take notes for our Zoom sessions to make sure that they're being addressed as well.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Lynn. So we do a lot of wraparound support for users, or for, in this case, as associates. And by using a tool that they already use, it's a very widely used tool by immigrants in the United States, and then by folks around the world. So it's very commonly used for keeping in touch with family when, for folks here in the United States who have family abroad. And so by using that tool that's already used on a daily basis and for very sort of very personal reasons, we're able to tap into that same space and become part of their daily lives, creating this 15-minute daily practice, and then follow-up questions when they occur to the individual. They can just put them right there in WhatsApp. So we get real-time feedback from them. The value, if I did put that link over here in the chat, and if you'd like it, I can send it. The trick is moving from a workspace environment over to your personal device. So, if I put it here in Zoom, you're probably not on a phone to tap on it. And if you're on a computer, you probably don't have WhatsApp on your computer, although Lynn and I do. But if you do take the time to get into that space right there, the big advantage of that is that we find through our research that groups of users are extra engaged, are especially engaged when there's somebody there who has some kind of superiority or authoritative position. And especially when that person is just the occasional, cheerleader, like clapping or, way to go, glad to see that you're getting, your daily work in, or that was a great question. Nothing that has to involve any kind of expertise about English, but just your presence in that room does make a difference. And it's just that feeling of somebody in addition to yourself caring, right? So if you do have the time to be over there, and if you already use WhatsApp, you're very welcome to join us. And you'll see some of the great things that Lynn posts there. Okay. So beyond that, let's see. So they're going to be using Blue Canoe, basically, outside of work. In work, we hope they'll be applying more of this strategy to be better understood. And in those situations when they speak English, there may be some workspaces where lots of different associates have the same native language, and so they'll be using that language, perhaps. But we watch for those moments when it's with you or with someone else in English, and see if you can't notice some of those instances where communication is made a little better by this ability to navigate understanding. It's a little elusive what we're looking for, but it is very powerful when you start noticing it and start reporting on it. Okay. As far as communication goes, Lynn will be in touch directly with the associates, again, through WhatsApp. And I will be in touch with Daisy Mendez and you all through Daisy, through email. So there's sort of two parallel communication structures, both of which work best for the recipients, and just kind of keeps an efficient flow of a tree to communication, right? Where I'll be here on one side and Lynn will be on the instructional side. So just know that, if you do need to reach me, CC Daisy so she's in the loop, and ask me any kind of a question or a request, and any kind of language that you want highlighted, and I can pass that along or share it myself. Okay. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have about the coming 3 months. We're really excited about it. Again, if you tuned in a little bit after we'd started, we are highlighting or trying to capture stories of success with communication. So I showed you an example with Liz telling that story. Lynn's going to be playing another story shortly, also told by Liz. She's kind of our color Val storyteller who collects these moments that we all encounter. A lot of us encounter these kinds of, various misunderstandings that are strange. And then it's hard to capture and hard to remember. So she's been recording those for us. So we're going to be collecting those stories. We're looking for successes that are felt in the workplace. So your help is always appreciated that way. But otherwise, just be supportive. Ask them how it's going, and whenever you can, engage them in little extra English conversations so that you can appreciate the work they're doing. And that's about what we're headed toward. Okay. If no other questions, I haven't seen any questions in the chat yet, but you're welcome to ask. We're staying in this room to have the second, the kickoff meeting for the associates. And that starts in 7 minutes. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Lynn?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We're good.
I did have one quick question. So if you want to get into the group and, give kudos to your team members who are taking the classes and things, is there a specific time each day that they do it? Because I know a lot of it is at home.
Every person has a slightly different time, but Lynn, you could speak to this. A lot of them do it in the morning. Is that right?
I don't know. Some of them must do it all their waking hours outside of work. So a few. But no, they'll post at different times, but with the WhatsApp group, you can be there anytime. Just pop in anytime and you can kind of scroll up. So if you're not familiar with WhatsApp, it's just a chat group like iMessage on iPhone or your phone, your text messaging. It's just done to where you can use it for free internationally. So that's why many of them use that, because they can keep in contact with their families internationally without any incurring additional charges. And so, you can just scroll up with the group and you can look at all the messages that have come in, and just you can tap on one specific message if you want to specifically comment to that one, or you can just comment in general.
Yeah, in fact, I can just show you briefly, since we're all kind of, this is my WhatsApp, so you'll see a lot of stuff on the left, but here is the Eurest BC group. This is the Blue Canoe group that we just set up. So it still has not all of the associates in it, but 10
And you're not-
participants so far.
You're not
Oh,
sharing.
I'm not sharing. Interesting. Let me try again.
Hold on. No, yeah, you can
Let's see.
share. Yeah.
Is that better?
I can see it.
Oh, great. So this part right here is the chat. And you can see we just set this up back in December. And then Eileen joined and so forth. So you don't have to be there at the time when everybody else is, because as you join the room or when you kind of look on your phone, you can go back in the chat and see what's going on. And as you can see, you know, Nellie Beth, I think we were sort of having a conversation about this red pepper vowel, and then we came along and there was a whole discussion about the word pecan. Was it pecan or pecan, like pecan pie? So there was some good discussion there. But mostly this is sort of during the holiday season when it was mostly kind of reminders and hellos and friendliness. But once things get up and running, you'll see a lot of, let me just pull this one up. This is typically what an associate will do. They'll finish their daily work or they'll have a score on an activity like this 90%, and they'll post it. They'll do a screen capture and they'll post it into WhatsApp. And that's the moment when, you know, if you see it, you can click on it and you can actually, that's not quite what I wanted. You can reply to the group like I did here and say, bravo, you know, that's great. Or you can just take the emojis if you don't want to type anything, and you can take out, you know, the clapping hands or the thumbs up or something like that. So I can go ahead and say bravo and, you know, post. And so that's the moment when they can see that you have seen what they posted somewhere up above. And it just feels good. It's like a real boost to the sense like, wow, somebody's watching. And of course, we're all in there in the stream. So on a given day, you know, it's a stream that might be 30 messages long. It's mostly graphic and you just say, oh, you know, neat. Great seeing everybody here. You know, it can be that short. Is that helpful, Tina?
Very much so. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not like you have to hang out and see if anyone's there.
That's why I was kind of thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm not quite sure what times this would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty neat. I mean, WhatsApp keeps me, as you can see, from mine, I have a whole bunch of different contacts. It keeps me in touch with my family in Mexico. And so we just have, you know, constant conversations going on, and it's also asynchronous. It's pretty neat.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from folks?
Karen, in the way of the upcoming meeting that's coming up right now, some of the associates may not be able to attend that meeting. And I know that you're recording this one right now for the managers, but how do we get access to that link for them to be able to hear that at a later time?
Great. Yeah, so thank you for asking. I am recording this session, and then we'll stop that recording and I'll hit record again with the second session. And both of those will be available, that Lynn can send those along. And I can certainly email them to you all, the managers. That's actually kind of touches on something you could really help us with, which is, you know, think of it as sort of these two silos that they're at work with you all. If I understand correctly, associates don't have their phones with them. And they may or may not have access to a computer and check email for work because it may not be part of their work so much to look at email. And so the challenge we face, and it's just a one-time challenge that you could really help us with, is being sure that they know that there's this WhatsApp group for them on their phones, and that's the new main way that they're going to be in touch with Lynn, and that they're going to get access to the Zoom links for these weekly meetings that they have. And those two, by the way, will also be recorded and posted in WhatsApp. So once they're in WhatsApp and joined the group, they're all tapped into every session, whether they've attended live or watched the recording. It's just right now that one little step from the work world to the personal phone when the two don't seem to be side by side very often. So if you have any ways that you can think of to help us out in that respect, we'd really appreciate it, just because if you think about it, like getting a link to the right place is it can start to be tricky when you don't have the two worlds next to each other, if that makes sense. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll finish up just with that fascination of the communication piece, that we're doing a lot of work outside of work, outside of their daily work, but they need to find ways to find this information and move over. So any ideas you have, please let me know. And I want to thank you for your time today. You're very welcome to stay for the second session. This will be the end of the first session, and I'll stop recording now.
One thing I want to say, Karen, is that these recordings that I do with them every week will be in that WhatsApp group.
Exactly.
So there are two different WhatsApp groups. One is an administrative group and one is the participant group. And you're welcome to be in both. So
yeah, and the link that I posted, let's see.
I just posted it again. It was the same one. So
Same one. Okay. So the one that we've posted there in the chat for you all is the overall group that has the associates in it.
Yeah.
And if, if you just want to be in one group, that's the group to be in, yay, thumbs up, all that kind of cheerleading stuff would be great. If the secondary one, because we don't want to be a burden at all on the many things you have to do in a given day. But if you want a direct connection to Lynn in the group, you can always you can privately message her there from WhatsApp if you have like a language need. We have no way of knowing what those phrases are that you really need on your floor. What is it that happens in catering that's a really common situation that has some critical needs. We're very happy to include that in instruction. So anytime something like that comes up, okay. How do I get into the fun group? I'm only in the second group. Linda, have you clicked on that? Try that link above. And I think that'll take you to the fun group, so to say. Yeah.
I'm trying to add her phone number, but it's not working.
Okay. So we'll email you with both of those to all of those managers here. Okay. Thanks again. All right. So we'll go ahead and invite and admit our participants that are the